The bucket struck her shoulder as they shoved her from the saloon steps. "Spoiled goods," one of the men spat, laughter hard as gravel. Eliza staggered, wrists raw from rope burns, her breath hitching against the dry air. She kept her chin high, though dust clung to her lips and the stink of whiskey clung to their taunts. She would not give them her tears. "Best you walk," the barkeep sneered. "Desert'll take what's left of you quicker than we will." The jeers followed as she stepped onto the dirt road, her skirts torn, her boots half broken. Each stride carried her farther from the false promises of the war that had stripped her name, her husband, and now her place in town. She had been wed to a soldier who never returned. Left behind, she became a rumor, then a burden. Now, discarded. Her throat ached from thirst, but pride kept her upright. Pride, and the thought that somewhere beyond the horizon, silence might be kinder than people. Hours passed beneath a sun that scorched the ground to shimmering waves. The cicadas screamed louder than her thoughts. Once she swayed, nearly falling, but clenched her jaw and pushed on. If the land meant to kill her, it would have to try harder. A low rumble broke through, the sound of hooves. She froze. Dust plumed on the ridge ahead. One rider, the figure reined in sharply, a tall man astride a black horse, his silhouette cutting against the dying sun. He said nothing at first, only studied her with eyes shaded by a brimmed hat. When he finally nudged the horse forward, the light caught his face. Scars carved across cheek and jaw, the map of battles no surgeon could erase. His gaze lingered on her wrists, the way she stood shaking but defiant. "You'll die out here," he said, voice low, rough as if unused. Her lips cracked when she answered, "Then I'll die on my feet." The man swung down, boots crunching on dry earth. For a long moment, silence bridged them, heavy with all they weren't saying. Then he extended a canteen, his hand steady despite the weight of his stare. Eliza hesitated, torn between dignity and survival. Behind them, far across the plains, another echo rolled faint, a shot, faint but distinct. Carried on the wind, she gripped the canteen, heart hammering. Whoever he was, she realized, trouble had already found them both. The gunshot echoed again, sharper this time, and Jeb's head turned toward the horizon. He didn't flinch, though the sound carried the weight of too many memories. "Stay low," he muttered, already scanning the ridge. His hand went to the rifle slung across his back, the motion quick, practiced. Eliza clutched the canteen tighter as if it were a lifeline. "Are they after you?" Her voice was hoarse but steady. "They're after something," he answered, not looking at her. The wind shifted, carrying the acrid sting of powder. He spat in the dirt, eyes narrowing. "Could be outlaws. Could be worse." The stallion snorted, restless, and Jeb soothed it with a rough palm over the reins. The way he touched the animal, gentle, assured, clashed with the harsh lines of his scarred face. "You'll ride," he said finally, thrusting the reins into her hands. She blinked at him. "I don't even know your name." "Jeb," he said, as if that alone should settle everything. He motioned to the saddle. "Get up." Eliza hesitated, pride battling survival, then swung herself into the seat. Her skirts tangled and the leather creaked beneath her. Jeb mounted behind her in one swift motion, the rifle balanced across his thighs. She felt the solid weight of him, smelled the faint tang of smoke and iron that clung to his clothes. They rode hard, the plains whipping past in golden streaks. Every hoofbeat struck like a drum against her chest. Behind them, faint dust clouds grew darker. Riders, several, gaining ground. Her throat tightened. "They're following." "I know." His voice was calm, but his body tensed like a coiled spring. He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "Hold on." The horse veered down a dry gulch, rocks clattering under its hooves. Sunlight fractured through jagged stone, shadows swallowing them in sudden coolness. Eliza's heart raced, her hands white-knuckled on the horn of the saddle. She could hear shouts now, voices carried thin on the wind. Jeb yanked the reins, stopping the horse abruptly in the narrow pass. He slid off, rifle ready, scanning the canyon walls. "You'll stay here," he said. His eyes met hers, dark and unreadable. "No matter what you hear." Before she could protest, he was already climbing the rocks, boots scraping stone, rifle glinting in the fading light. The shouts grew louder. The riders were near. Eliza's breath hitched as the first shadow spilled into the gulch. The echo of hooves closing in fast. The first rider burst into the gulch with a hoot. his revolver raised, teeth glinting in a wolf's grin. Dust swirled around him and more shadows followed on horseback. Eliza shrank against the saddle, clutching leather like a lifeline. From the ridge above, Jeb's rifle cracked once. The outlaw's hat flew off, a bullet tearing clean through its brim. The man yanked his reins, horse screaming as the gang spilled into the gulch below. "Jeb!" A voice rang out, booming against the canyon walls. "Ain't no need for all that." The riders slowed, fanning out like vultures. Their leader rode forward, broad-shouldered, his coat dusted with trail dirt, a scar not unlike Jeb splitting his lip. He grinned wide, almost friendly. "Didn't think I'd find you hiding with company." His gaze flicked to Eliza. "Pretty little thing." "Spoils of war?" Eliza's skin prickled. Jeb's rifle never wavered. "You're wasting your time, Colt," Jeb called down. His voice carried iron, though something colder lived beneath. Colt chuckled, sliding from his saddle. "You and me, we've bled together. Stole from the same camps, burned the same towns. Don't tell me you're playing homesteader now." He spread his arms. "Ride with us again. No law, no chains. Just the old days." Eliza's pulse thundered. She turned her head just enough to glimpse Jeb's face. His jaw was set, eyes fixed on the man below. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw hesitation, like the past tugging chains around his throat. "I left that life," Jeb said. Colt tilted his head. "Then I'll take the girl as your answer." He raised his revolver. The horse beneath Eliza shifted, sensing danger. "No!" The word ripped from her before she could stop it, raw and desperate. Jeb fired first. The canyon cracked with thunder. Colt's revolver spun from his hand, clattering against stone. Chaos erupted, shouts, gunfire, horses rearing. Eliza ducked low, heart in her throat, ears ringing with the volley. Through the dust and echo, Jeb dropped from the ridge, landing hard, rifle swinging like an extension of his scarred hands. He moved with grim precision, each shot deliberate, each step closer to her. But there were too many. The gang pressed forward, smoke choking the gulch, and Eliza realized with a cold jolt, if they didn't run now, neither of them would leave this canyon alive. Gunfire rattled off the canyon walls, deafening in its closeness. Sparks leapt from stone as bullets struck too near. Eliza pressed low against the horse's neck, breath ragged, the acrid tang of smoke filling her throat. "Move!" Jeb shouted, grabbing the reins. With one arm he swung himself onto the saddle behind her, the rifle clutched awkwardly in his free hand. The stallion reared, then lunged forward, hooves pounding against loose gravel. The gang closed from both sides, shots whistling past. Jeb fired once, twice, each blast echoing like thunder. A man cried out, another horse screamed, but still they came. The gulch narrowed ahead, a wall of scrub and stone choking the path. Colt's men whooped, certain they had them pinned. Jeb's eyes flicked over the terrain, calculating, desperate. Then he pulled a pistol from his belt and fired, not at them, but at the dry brush piled high along the slope. Flame caught fast, racing up brittle branches. In an instant the canyon roared alive. Smoke billowed, thick and suffocating. The horses shrieked, and the outlaws cursed, pulling back as fire spread between them and their prey. Eliza's lungs burned. She coughed, eyes watering, clinging to the saddle horn as Jeb steered them through a pocket of thinning smoke. Heat seared her skin, sparks snapping in her hair. His arm braced her, steady as iron. They broke free onto open ground, the stallion lathered with sweat, sides heaving. Behind them the gulch glowed orange, a wall of fire swallowing shouts into silence. For a long stretch they rode without words. Only the sound of the horses' labored breath and Eliza's heartbeat filled the dusk. The prairie opened wide around them, the sun sinking in a bloody smear. At last Jeb slowed, pulling the stallion into a trot. He slid from the saddle, boots striking dirt, and steadied her as she dismounted. She looked at him, at the scars, the soot blackening his jaw, the raw exhaustion in his eyes. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. "You could have left me back there," she whispered. His gaze held hers, unreadable, shadows lengthening over his face. Not a chance. For the first time she believed him. Then, from the distance, a single horn blast cut the stillness, the outlaws regrouping. They were not done. The cabin walls creaked as the night wind swept across the plains. A single oil lamp burned on the table, its glow casting long shadows that flickered over the rough-hewn boards. Eliza sat wrapped in a worn blanket, the smell of smoke still clinging to her hair. while Jeb bound a strip of cloth around a graze on his arm. "You should have let me do that," she said softly. He tied the knot with a grunt. "I've patched worse." Silence pressed between them, broken only by the hiss of the lamp. Eliza studied him, the way his hands shook once the work was done, how his shoulders hunched as if he carried the weight of ghosts. The scars across his face seemed deeper in the lamplight, but there was something human in his eyes, something fragile. "You've lost people," she murmured. His jaw clenched. "Too many. So have I." Her fingers toyed with the edge of the blanket. "My husband never came back. They buried me with his name, then threw me aside like it was shameful to survive." Jeb looked at her then, really looked, as though seeing the truth for the first time. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally spoke low, almost broken. "I came home to a house burned down, a family I couldn't save. What's left of me isn't worth much." Her throat tightened. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his knuckles. He didn't pull away. "You're wrong," she whispered. The silence stretched, charged and fragile. His eyes dropped to their joined hands, and for the first time his scars did not look like ruin. They looked like survival. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Both froze. Jeb's hand went for his rifle, movement silent, deliberate. Eliza's heart hammered as the knock came again, harder this time, followed by a rough voice. "Jeb Carraway, open up or we burn you out like we did before." Colt. The lamp trembled as the wind pushed against the shutters. Eliza's breath caught. She glanced at Jeb, fear clawing at her throat. His rifle was already loaded. His voice, steady as steel. "Stay behind me." The door rattled under a boot, splinters cracking. The door splintered inward with a crash, and the night erupted. Colt's men poured through the frame, revolvers flashing in the lamplight. Jeb fired first, the rifle's thunder shaking the cabin. A man dropped in the doorway, another fell back, clutching his chest. "Down!" Jeb barked. Eliza dove behind the table, clutching the blanket to her chest as bullets ripped through wood, shattering glass and scattering sparks from the lamp. Smoke thickened fast, stinging her eyes. Jeb moved with lethal rhythm. Fire, reload, fire. His scars twisted in the flicker of the burning lamp, sweat streaking through soot. Each shot was deliberate, measured, but the numbers were against him. Colt's voice boomed through the chaos, cruel and certain. "You can't win, Jeb. You never could. Step aside and maybe I'll let the girl walk." Jeb's only answer was another shot, the bullet grazing Colt's shoulder and driving him back out the door. Rage roared in the outlaw's curses. Then silence fell, too sudden, too complete. Eliza held her breath. A sound came next, the creak of the roof. Her eyes darted upward. Shadows moved against the rafters. "Jeb!" she cried. He turned just as a man dropped from above. They crashed to the floor, fists swinging. The rifle skittered across the planks, out of reach. Jeb grappled, scarred hands locking around the outlaw's throat. But another figure burst through the window, glass exploding. Eliza's pulse pounded. She grabbed the fallen pistol near her feet. Her fingers trembled as she raised it, the weight nearly buckling her wrist. The outlaw lunged at Jeb with a knife. She fired. The blast rang in her bones. The man staggered, knife clattering to the floor. Jeb shoved him aside, chest heaving. His eyes met hers, shock, pride, something deeper flickering in the chaos. Outside, Colt shouted orders. Flames licked at the cabin walls now, fire spreading from the thrown lanterns. The heat grew unbearable, the air choked with ash. Jeb staggered to his rifle, blood seeping through his shirt. He planted himself in the doorway, silhouette framed in firelight, the very image of defiance. Colt stepped forward from the smoke, revolver raised, grin wide with certainty, their eyes locked. One of them would not walk away. The cabin roared with fire, its beams snapping in protest as smoke swallowed the stars. Colt leveled his revolver at Jeb, his smile a knife's edge. "You'll always be broken," Colt sneered. "Might as well die with the rest of your ghosts." Jeb steadied his rifle, though blood soaked his shirt. His breath rattled in his chest, but his eyes, hard, unyielding, fixed on the man he once called brother. "Maybe," he said, "but I won't let her burn." The guns spoke in the same heartbeat. Colt's revolver spat flame, Jeb's rifle thundered back. Both men staggered, smoke curling between them. Colt collapsed into the dirt, eyes wide with disbelief, his body swallowed by firelight. Jeb swayed, his rifle slipping from his grip. Eliza rushed to him, catching his weight as the cabin groaned, timbers collapsing around them. She dragged him into the night, each step fueled by sheer will. They collapsed a safe distance from the blaze, the fire painting the sky in savage gold. Jeb's chest heaved, blood slicking her hands as she pressed cloth against the wound. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Don't you dare leave me too." His eyes fluttered, pain carving deep lines into his scarred face. Then with effort, he lifted a trembling hand to touch her cheek. "You pulled me back," he rasped. "Didn't know I could still be saved." Tears cut tracks through the soot on her face. She bent her head, pressing his hand tighter to her skin. "I'm not letting go, not now. Not ever." The night hushed around them, broken only by the crackle of flames. Slowly, Jeb's breathing steadied beneath her hands. Exhausted but alive. At dawn, the townsfolk crept from hiding, drawn by the smoke. They found Colt's gang scattered and broken, their terror ended. Their eyes fell on Eliza, bloodied, ash-streaked, yet unbowed, and on the soldier who had fought beside her. For the first time, no one called her spoiled or cursed her name. They saw what she was, the woman who stood when others turned away. Jeb stirred, his voice low but sure. "You were never cast away," he told her. "You were the healer I prayed for." Eliza closed her eyes against the rising sun, a sob and a laugh tangled in her throat. She had been abandoned, discarded, left to die. But in the ashes of war and fire, she had found something stronger than survival. She had found a man who saw her not as ruin, but as salvation.